sons of Kryos.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Judd.
And we are
the Sons of Kryos. And our show is about play.
And everything that happens at the gaming table.
Sometimes we will venture under the gaming table.
Sometimes we'll go to the fridge.
Or the bookshelf.
And sometimes we'll go to the computer.
But we're always going to try to keep our show centered around that game table. That's our home. That's what the show is about. That's what interests us.
Hi, and welcome to our show.
We've got a good one for you today. Jeff, you want to break it down for us? Give us the outline?
Today we're going to talk about good sentences.
Yeah, I've got
Judd
a good
has
sentence.
A good sentence for us today.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk a little bit about stakes.
We're going to talk a little bit about character names.
That's important.
PC and NPCs, or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about role-playing and non-role-playing games. How to get love and betrayal in your game of Monopoly.
Wow. You know, I've done that, but that's what we're going to talk about last. So, shall we jump right into your good sentence, man?
Let's do that.
What's your good sentence?
A good sentence is something that a GM says to the players when they're creating a game. The game is first starting, and the GM says, this is what the game's about. And I think it's an important one because what you follow that up with is the game's concept, is what the players are going to make their characters based off of. And that's especially with games that don't come with a premise built right in. You really need that. I know when Jeff and I were talking about this good sentence, Jeff mentioned the Burning Wheel game that I had that we're playing now, and the concept of the game was it's a city built over hell, and the souls can't get in because they've sealed off hell. Bam, make your characters, go. And even looking back, that was a little broad, you know? I don't know if I'm happy with the dwarf, elf, orc, human, let's go save the world vibe that we tried to create. I don't know if I'm thrilled with it. But I think sometimes a narrower premise can be solid. Like, Jeff, when you set up your superhero game, how did you do that?
Actually, I was inspired by the comic book series Rising Stars by Michael J. Straczynski.
Mm-hmm. Babylon 5, right?
Yep, Babylon 5. And I came to my players and I said to them, hey guys, I'm inspired by this comic book. I've been reading it. I just can't put it down. I want to run a superhero game. And, of course, they were all like big White Wolf players. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of said, all right, well, I'm going to use something White Wolf. I ended up using Aberrant. Mm-hmm. I tweaked it a bit, but ended up being one of the best games I've ever run.
Right.
And yeah, we've talked about it before on this podcast.
And I think that's important. I think that going in there and saying, hey, I'm inspired by this, let's run a game that is riffing off of it is a really important step.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go into a D&D. I don't think you could. It would be very difficult to go into a D&D game and say, all right, let's just play. And I think you get a very disjointed game if you just didn't have some kind of a premise. We're all, all the characters have amnesia, and as you go up levels, you'll get another snippet of your memory. Bam! Everybody can hang their hat on that and figure out what they want to be.
Right.
And I think that's really important. Let's run a Buffy game. Let's run it in the let's run it in inner city Cleveland in the Hellmouth that was mentioned in the 7th season of Buffy. Bam! Suddenly everybody's got something to hang their hat on, and they've got the framework of Buffy, and they've got the framework of inner city Cleveland to kind of the vibe off of and to get it. So yeah, it's a pretty simple one. It's just going in there with a plan as a GM and being very willing to change that a little bit.
Right.
And based on what the characters are doing and what their feedback is.
Just recently I ran Octane. Actually, last weekend I ran Octane for the first time.
You played in it. Oh, you ran it?
I played in it at Dreamation
for
the first time. But playing in it really pumped me for the game.
Nice.
And I ended up running it this last weekend.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, my players wanted to wanted me to run my normal like D20 game, but I was like, I'm just not ready. I'm not prepared for it. And I ended up throwing together an Octane game with them, and I was like, let's get together. Let's turn on some rock and roll. Let's grab a few drinks and let's sit down and play.
So did you have a "this is what the game's about" moment?
I had a "this is what the game's about." I wouldn't say it actually gave too much detail about where the player characters were actually starting, but it did definitely give them the flavor of the world.
Set the tone.
Yeah.
Cool. What did you say?
Oh God, boy. I can't honestly remember. It was certainly more of a this is a kind of world inspired by type of a Mad Max Tank Girl type of thing.
Yeah.
And
Kung Fu monkeys, Elvis impersonator samurai.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have either of those this time. We had a player who played a delivery ninja I forget what the name of it's called.
Yeah.
Another one was playing like a Ultra Vixen. It's like a trailer trash kind of hot rocker chick. Another one played the zombie, like the metal zombie guy.
Yeah.
And another girl played a smart car. Her car, that evening, the game ended up starting late because her car broke down, and she was like pissed at her car.
Nice, so she channeled that.
Right, and she was like, "I want to play a smart car that's like just grumpy and mean and like doesn't like people."
That's a rocking group, though.
Yeah, and our last one played a techno shaman.
Okay,
but great group. I wish I had their character sheets in front of me because one of the things I really liked about Octane is you make up some of your own skills, and the skills that come out of people for these characters are just like so entertaining.
I'd love to see the zombie skills. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
Actually, I remember his.
Okay,
his were pull himself apart.
Nice.
So his he could detach parts of himself, and when he did, though, he had no control over them. The player did, but the character didn't. And reattach, and then another one was like making other zombies.
Okay.
So yeah, good stuff.
Great. And I think that wraps up that good sentence.
Yeah.
Put a little bow on it.
Absolutely.
Send it off.
If you want to talk to us about any of Judd's good sentences,
or if you want to help us, if you want help making your own pitch to go to your group with, we can work out a call-in show time or something.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Drop us an email.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, roll to hit the vampire gazebo. You hit.
Hey guys, what are you doing? Role-playing?
Oh, no, it's that guy.
No, we're not doing anything. We're just watching TV.
Aw, that's too bad, because I brought along my new gaming girlfriend.
Hello, boys. Mind if I max out on charisma?
Whoa! Hey, did you get that hot gaming girlfriend from listening to Gamer the Podcasting?
Yeah, of course.
Gamer the Podcasting does not actually get you a hot gamer girlfriend. What it actually does is give you useful advice on tabletop role-playing, live-action role-playing, and all other forms of role-playing games. Sometimes we talk about other games. We can do whatever we want. It's our own podcast. Visit us on the web at www.gamerthepodcasting.blogspot.com.
Welcome back, everybody.
Let's hit setting stakes.
Setting stakes.
All right.
Now you just throw them on the grill, keep it going at about...
You made those good peppercorn steaks the other day. That was good.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, this is not our cooking show. This is
Oh.
not Chefs of Kryos.
That'd be a great show.
You think so?
Gamer food?
Maybe.
Absolutely.
I think we could get a segment out of that.
I think we've done the food thing, though,
Maybe.
a number of times. So,
Maybe.
but this isn't about food, and it's not about steaks, like the kind you eat. This is about the stakes that you set up in
a conflict.
Game.
Right.
In a conflict, yes.
Okay, so let's just take a classic example of a thief.
Wait. Are you going to tell us what stakes are first?
Stakes are... Yeah, I'm going to set an example.
Okay.
I'm going to explain via an example.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay, dude. There is a thief, and he's picking a lock. Okay? And in the lock, in the vault is a treasure. So if you are playing a game that does not do conflict resolution, that does what they call task resolution, he either succeeds and he doesn't open the lock, or he succeeds and he opens the lock, or he fails and he doesn't open the lock.
In which case he usually tries again and again and again and again.
Right.
And it's boring.
And I have a problem with that, because if he doesn't open the lock, it can really ding up the adventure. So what I propose is that you have it, he's going to open the lock. As the GM, you want him to open the lock.
Right. Otherwise you wouldn't put the cool treasurer in there.
Right. So you set the stakes differently. You don't set the stakes for success or failure. You set the stakes as if he succeeds, he opens the vault and he gets the treasure and no one has hurt him yet. If he fails, he succeeds. He still opens the lock, but as he opens the lock and puts his hand on the treasure, the guards come in.
Right.
Bam. Either way, cool stuff is happening. If he succeeds, he still has to sneak out of there. If he fails, we've got a cool adventure scene where he gets to swashbuckle around with the guards chasing him.
Right.
Rock on. So that's stakes. Like that's stakes kind of in a nutshell.
Now, I kind of brought this out recently in a game I was running, and my players aren't used to stakes.
Right.
And it was my D20 game. Like a player ended up like doing something bad with magic, and really screwed something up.
Nice.
And he's like, "All right, I need to make a saving throw." And I was like, "All right, but I'm not feeling this as in either you make it or you don't." I was like, "Let's set it up as if, either you." Either it's like degrees of what you can make it,
right.
Like either something really, really bad happens or lesser degrees of something bad happening.
Okay.
Because you messed with the magic and you screwed it up. Let's not deal with, you messed it up and nothing happens. So.
Right. That's kind of boring.
And I think that's kind of a stake. So we ended up talking
What
it
did
over.
they think? How did the player react?
They scratched their head for a little bit, kind of like, trying to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if they really got it. But I think they liked the options that I gave them.
Cool.
So
I think that's an important part of stake setting is that it has to be a group activity.
Yeah.
It really helps when you can turn to other players and be like, all right, I'm trying to set stakes here and they're just falling flat. Does anybody else have any ideas? Because very often I've found that players who are outside of that conflict will have a good insight into what would make it exciting.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you'll find you just don't have a conflict. There's no reason to go to the dice because there's no conflict here.
Right.
I've had that happen a couple of times. Here's a danger for setting stakes. Here's something that can get dangerous. You don't want to make your game where it's all stake setting and no role playing. I find that boring as anything. I think you really need to watch that. You need to make it so that the game is not just people sitting around deciding on conflict, and you need to know when to insert that. You need to know when to say, whoa, we've got a conflict here, let's set our stakes. And you need to know when to just let the role-playing roll for a little while and let it ferment and let it get to the really good stuff.
So how do you judge that?
I think you know when... you get an idea when the scene is starting to spin its wheels. And if you find that the whole game has been talking about stakes and not enough role-playing, then
right.
you just adjust,
So like when characters are bumping heads and they're
right.
just not getting anywhere.
Yes.
That's a good spot?
Good, yes. I mean, I had a couple of players in an Ars Magica game I used to run, and they used to just butt heads to no avail all the time. And they'd do a Kurtamen, and Kurtamen is a wizardly duel.
Right.
And it would come to very little, and I think that's because I didn't know about stake setting. Otherwise, the stakes of the Kurtamen would have been more interesting. But they would do Kurtamen, nothing really would happen with the Kurtamen, and then they'd be arguing the next game. And it would just eat up horrific amounts of time. And I found that when we had the Duel of Wits mechanic in Burning Wheel, they wouldn't do that. Because as soon as two players had a conflict that started to eat up table time...
You forced them to deal with it and make up something that worked.
Yes, deal with it or shut up.
Right.
Let's deal with this conflict and have it mean something, or let's be quiet and let's play.
That Duel of Wits system is something that I have kind of brought over into a number of games that I have run just because of that. Because there's that great point of, we're role-playing our characters, and this is fun.
Yes.
But then it's just like, nobody's getting anywhere. He's not willing to give.
Yes.
He's not willing to give.
We've got to go to the system.
Yeah, and with this way, you can say, all right, your character has, 10 levels in debate,
right.
and your character has 2. So, your stats can affect stuff here, and
yep.
so I think that's cool though too.
And it's also,
because some of those players who make characters like that can get steamrolled over
right.
by other players.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen players come to games, especially LARPs, where they will just role play over people.
Oh, it happens,
and just
it happens in tabletops and it happens in LARPs a lot because LARPs really don't have any the social conflict resolution is as you said, it's who rolls over whom.
Right.
And that's that can be a little annoying. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's a little annoying. I would say a lot of LARPers would argue, well, those are just the people who role play better.
But that's not true.
I don't know.
I think there's a tendency for people who role play better to be able to do that.
Right. No, I agree. I think the people who tend to role play better are more alpha personalities.
But I do know a lot of really good role players who don't. In fact, there are other types. There's another type. The type that is, I want to say supportive. They help other characters,
right,
versus just rolling over them.
Right.
And
I agree. We are in agreement. Absolutely. So yeah, that's stakes in a nutshell. I would love to figure out some kind of social stakes for LARPs. I think that'd be really interesting.
I would love to find a better way to work out stakes in my D20 game, because it just doesn't come up in the system.
Right.
And there are a lot of times where I find myself going, you know what? I don't want to just roll to see if you succeed or fail.
Right.
I think the character should succeed. It makes sense for the story. It makes sense for, everything. So why the heck am I going to have you roll just to let you fail and then go, oh God, how do I continue the story now?
Right. If you can't if the whole adventure is behind a locked door, and you can't get in the locked door. I know a friend of mine played in a Battlestar Galactica game that he told me about, and his character couldn't open a door, and it was just like, when does a locked door ever stop Starbuck?
See, this is usually the point where I'm just like, you know what? This is not a roll. I'm not going to make you roll.
Right.
You succeed.
Right.
Okay? It's not worth it. I'm not going to. And I think we've gotten into this before and about systems, and I don't think D20 is like the best system in the world. I think it works somewhat for what I'm doing, and I enjoy using it. But there are certain aspects from other games that I would really love to incorporate.
You also like tinkering. Like, you're a tinkerer when it comes to systems, so you kind of enjoy taking things that you like from other places and putting them in there. So that's just in your.
It's really a mishmash of lots of other great games.
You've always been into digging that. Cool. I think that's stakes in it. Let's wrap them up. They're cooked.
Awesome.
Medium well.
Can I have mine rare, please?
It's too late.
Damn.
This show is a member of Goblin, the gaming broadcast network. gbncom.com.
Judd, we're going to talk about character names now.
Fantastic. I think the more Z's and apostrophes in a name, the better.
Wow.
Z's and apostrophes.
Can we have dashes too?
Sure. If that's maybe like dash to your family name.
Yeah.
And then your dash to your clan name, and then dash to your. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So this segment is about naming characters, both characters that you play and characters that are NPCs in games that you run. I think, this almost comes up to a GM Tools thing. Not quite, but
it's close. It's real close.
It's close.
Jeff and his wife bought me a 35,000 name baby name book, and it's been really helpful. It's gotten some wear and tear.
I've had mine for a few years now, and it's I always carry it in my gaming stuff. You never know when you want to come up with a character on the fly, and you're like, I can't think of it. Oh.
I hate especially fantasy names. I think that's one of the things that makes me really want to stop running fantasy when I get sick of it, is I'm so sick of making up names like Verlaxon and Durlathel and whatever the heck.
Right.
And what I've done for my fantasy names is the game that we've been playing with Burning Wheel has been very Tolkien influenced, and I have a Tolkien dictionary, little red guy.
Yeah, I have one too.
Yep, we can have a link to that, and it's great. It's an absolutely great tool. All my elves are named after words in Elvish. All my characters I go with like Rohirrim names, and it's fantastic. It's just a wonderful, wonderful tool. So
there are a bunch of websites out there too that have name generators on them.
Lots of internet.
Yeah, lots of them. You can find them all over the place.
When I run the Dictionary of Moo, I get a bunch of biblical names. When I run Dogs in the Vineyard, Dogs in the Vineyard comes with a list of names in the book, which is really nice. Yeah. But if you want more, you can go for some New Testament names, maybe.
Now, I was perusing a forum the other day, and I don't remember which one it was, and I'm sorry. I'd really love to tell you where it was, but I can't remember. There was somebody who suggested making up a list of full names.
Yes.
And keeping them with you at the table, and that way you could just draw from them.
I think that's a fantastic
Yeah,
idea.
I thought it was a great idea.
Polaris is another game that comes with names because all the characters are named after stars. So
right.
all the characters are all the names are right there, and they're and they come like loaded. Like as soon as you know you're named, Orion, you get an idea in your head about what that guy is like, and that's really cool. I really dig that.
That's a really important thing about names, because just a name being spoken can give you an image of what a character is going to be like. And if you're making up a PC, then it might help you out with what you're trying to paint, the picture you're trying to paint. And if you don't have an idea, you might just you might have a name that you like,
right,
and it can fit with whatever. But I think it works much better with NPCs. For example, if you made up a list of names and you're like, well, I need a warrior here. Mm-hmm. And you look through these names and you go, oh, that name right there,
right.
Conan, that works.
Absolutely.
That's a warrior name.
Or a talk show host.
Yeah.
Funny that. But yeah, I think having the name sound like a name is really important. I mean, even as long as you pick one motif for the name.
Nothing made up, like completely made up, like Zaxaleaf?
I mean, as long as you're consistent, I don't think you can go too wrong. I mean, if you want names like Zaxaleaf in your game and that fits, God bless you.
Good. I'm using it, dude.
Fantastic. But yeah, I think it's really important that they're consistent and that they all sound like they come from a similar place. It adds to the feel, I think. And making up fantasy names was really killing me in my old fantasy game I was running. It was really wearing me down.
They're tough, man. But that Tolkien book, I'm telling you, big help.
Huge help.
Big help. Baby name book too. Definitely got to get yourself one of those if you need to come up with stuff on the fly and you don't have a computer right in front of you, grab one.
You can print one out. What I'll do before a game is if I'm running like Dictionary of Mu, I'll have like a list of Babylonian and Old Testament names, and I will just pick the most obscure, weird sounding ones for NPCs that I need, and that's nice.
So, Judd, do you have a character that you named that sticks out in your head? Is there because I have a name that I use for something and I use it over again, multiple games. Do you have anything like that? That a name that sticks to something and it kind of keeps that same image in different games?
I can think of my first D&D character. For some reason, that's what's sticking in my head, and it's not particularly good and stuff. But it was, you know what? All right, here's the name. He was a Kender thief, and his name was Stultus Flippolodicus. But I like the name Stultus because it was actually my friend of mine was taking Latin at the time,
right?
And I think Stultus means idiot.
Huh.
So we went or fool. And I think we went with that because my character was so foolish. And I really liked it. And Flippolodicus is goofy, but Kender are goofy.
Right.
And I was 12 years old. Forgive me. Get off my back, man. So what's the character name that you've used a lot?
A character name I've used through several games is Seesh. And it's a name that I've used for an evil spirit type of character.
Yeah, he's come up a couple times.
Yeah, you've actually played him once.
Oh, in
the
Polaris
game.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, Dreamation.
Nice.
So yeah, he's come up in a number of games, and he always ends up being very similar.
It's a creepy name.
Yeah,
Seesh is just a
Seesh.
It's like a hush it's like a hiss. You
yeah,
know?
Yeah, and that's I don't know where I pulled it out of, but he ended up being kind of like a whispering type of bodiless spirit.
Yeah. No, as soon as you hear the name, you know who he is, no doubt.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Just awesome, though.
Great. I think we've said what we need to say about names. We can serve that up with our steak.
Sons of Kryos, arise!
Jeff, this was your idea, role-playing and non-role-playing games. You want to start us off here?
Yeah, I think there's a number of games that I've played in that aren't necessarily role-playing games, where the people who play in it are role-players, and it just comes out. It bleeds into the game. For example, BattleTech.
Okay, which you run. You run traditional BattleTech, classic
BattleTech, yes. I've run it a number of times, but over the years, some of my players who are more, I wouldn't say they're more role players, but they're definitely role players, and they've had characters in the BattleTech game that last for a while. It happens sometimes, and they ended up making personas for these characters. And we weren't playing the BattleTech role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing the miniature war game. So the game just isn't about that, but they brought it in whenever they could, where they, would play their character giving other characters orders, or they would have meetings with like enemy commanders,
right,
or giving terms of surrender, things like that, or trying to work their way out of a sticky situation.
Does it ever affect the game directly?
Oh, absolutely.
How so?
Well, let's say that they are in a battle and things are going very good for them, and they can attempt to try and convince somebody to surrender. I'm totally cool with that.
Okay, and what happens points-wise? Like, do you have ways of scoring that? With
No, there isn't. I mean, not with just the classic BattleTech game. I mean, you could really take the BattleTech role-playing game and kind of work that in system-wise with the classic BattleTech game. But I find the two of them are just like so different, honestly, in system-wise.
Right.
The role-playing game just takes a lot more effort. And I don't really want it to be about, well, what's your character's debate skill?
Right.
I'd rather.
Do they have a debate skill in the BattleTech role-playing game?
I'm sure they do. I don't remember what it's called, but they probably have some sort of like manipulation or debate or something like that. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah, and
I in kind of RPG theory parlance, this is called drift. And it's I think it's something that we do all the time, in that we take a game that's not necessarily about something and we play it. If you ever had a character in D&D who's found true love, there's nothing in the rules to help you support or help you figure out how your character feels about love, really.
Right.
But people do it and they have fun with it, and I think drift and that kind of stuff it can lead to game design. I think it's most of our first game design reflexes is this kind of taking a game that's about X and making it about Y. And I think that's really cool. And you do it a lot. You drift the heck out of everything that you play. You drift your D20 game. You drifted your Aberrant game. You're a drifter.
Absolutely. Boy, that makes me kind of sad.
Why is that?
A little bit. Well, just because that there are these games that I really like, and I end up having to like drift away from what they really truly are.
Oh no! Wait. Okay.
I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sad because most of the people that I game with also do that. So I think that's kind of a hint that the people who are playing these games are not are playing them differently than intended, and that's, I don't know. Maybe the people who make the games need to.
I don't know. I don't think it's sad. I think I don't like drifting games, so I stay away from games where I have to because I'm not good at it. But if you have fun doing it and you seem to enjoy it, then have fun. I mean, who cares? If you like drifting, then drift. There's nothing sad about it. Don't be sad, Jeff.
All right, I'll cheer up.
Okay.
Here's another time where role-playing shows up in a non-role-playing like game setting.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween parties.
Oh, totally.
For gamers,
absolutely.
When they dress up as somebody, they're more than just dressing up.
Oh, I think that's a non-gamers too. I think if you go to Halloween, not that I've gone to Halloween parties with significant amounts of non-gamers. Actually, I don't know what that says about me. But anyway, I would imagine that it's the one time a year you get to do that. You get to dress up and be somebody else. That's really cool.
Well, I've definitely gone to a few Halloween parties that there were not gamers except for me at, and there's a big difference between people showing up in costume, and once in a while they'll say something, joking around about I'm Batman or something like that,
right?
Versus like two characters having a conversation,
right?
Or two people having a conversation as the people they're dressed up as,
right? Batman having a conversation with a pirate,
exactly,
over the nacho dip,
exactly.
That's fun. No, I think it's really natural. I think we have so much fun doing this thing, and if you can act like Martin Gecko when you're playing Monopoly and talk about how greed is good, that's great. I mean, have fun with it.
So maybe, for example, with my BattleTech game, maybe there's a way I can, I don't know, do something with that to have it affect the outcome system-wise. I don't know. I've never have, just because BattleTech's already really crunchy. Classic BattleTech's already really crunchy.
Right.
But I
So do you get points for destroying another mech? Is that basically the way it works?
Well, it really depends on if you're like doing a campaign type of thing or if you're just like playing a game.
Okay.
If it's a one-shot game, no.
See, what would honk me off is if I was playing this game and one of the players surrendered and like denied me points because they surrendered. And there were no, like, it would honk me off. Like, I'm playing BattleTech, I'm playing to win.
Right.
You know, I want everybody to have a good time. That's great, but ultimately, I want to blow your robot's head off.
You know, if I were actually caught in that situation as far as running a game, I think it would, to me, it would really depend on how it started.
Right.
If you just like, you know, get your battle going and you don't even fire a shot at the guy and you convince him to surrender, you know, through just a little bit of role play, I might be like, you know, nah, that wasn't really that hard. You know, you showed up with 300 mechs and he had 3. He surrendered, you know, it was pretty smart. Whereas if you were, you know, if you went through a battle and like you seriously wounded his mech or him and you said, look, surrender or else, then I think I would totally be fine with giving you the reward points. If not that it has any, but
okay. I have no idea how it works, but yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, and I've seen it all the time at the Warhammer games that I've played, and I've seen that I've witnessed. I really, you know, with Warhammer, the thing that really fascinates me about it is I love the setup phase.
Right.
I think if I played Warhammer, I would go to games and I'd set up and then I'd go home, which probably wouldn't make me any friends among the Warhammer scene. But I think it's just really a neat thing. I love the setup. I would do that for people. If people would just wanted to let me set up, I would set their things up and then go home. But
I love just seeing all the armies on the
just
board.
a raid
some of the
and
miniatures and all the time they spend painting those things. They're beautiful.
Putting the guys in the little hills and all that stuff. And there are definitely players who when there are players who go in with different priorities. Like I've seen arguments happen in the Ithaca scene, because one person wanted it to be more of a fun, artistic campaign story, and the other person was just in it to win and just clobbered him. And there was a bit of an argument. And I got to go with the guy who was out for clobbering. I think that's what Warhammer is about, unless you really make a strong agreement beforehand.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think when you come right down to it, yeah.
But it's weird. They've got really. Not weird, but they're alien to me. These alien lines of spending all your points on X or Y is munchkin-y and frowned on, and it's really interesting. I don't know. Maybe we'd have to get a Warhammer player in here to talk about it. But there are definitely things that are in bad form, which is kind of, I don't know, kind of bizarre. And you know, are they being competitive? Is it competitive? Is it not competitive? I don't know. So yeah, the role playing definitely filters in.
No, I've never played Warhammer, so
no, me neither.
But
me neither. But
seen it, but no.
But I've seen this role playing like the role playing at a board game phenomena that you've seen.
Right.
In at the Warhammer table, without a doubt.
It's just our color shining through, Judd. That's what it is, man.
That's beautiful, man.
That's what we are.
Do you want to sing a song about it?
No, you're the singer, man.
I don't think I'm going to bring it. I'm not going to break into Cyndi Lauper's True Colors. It's just not happening tonight. As much as some people might think that's funny.
Well, man, I think
we have time for one more topic. You think?
I think we might have time for one more topic.
I think we're going to have to do one near and dear to you. We'll do that after the bumper.
This is Jared Sorensen from Memento Mori Theatrics.
And this is John Wick from the Wicked Dead Brewing Company.
And you're listening to the Sons of Kryos.
All right, we're going to talk about killing characters.
Rock on. You are the pro.
Don't
dude.
say it. I have, Judd, I need to confess.
Okay.
I've killed characters.
Me too.
Okay.
All right.
Really?
Yeah, I've killed characters. I remember once when
I feel so much better now.
No, you're not alone. You're not alone,
okay.
Jack.
Thank goodness.
And I think without that threat of death, games can get really hollow. You really have to watch it. I know when I was running my Riddle of Steel game, nobody was dying. And I was kind of, oh man, I really wanted a good maiming. You know, that game kind of demands it. And they were just making good decisions, and the fights were, I mean, I was playing as hard as I could.
Right.
But they were, I think I was playing with a bunch of wargamer type guys.
Right.
And I think they were just beating me up. And I was the Seneschal or the GM or whatever. And that I think it took a little bit of the sting out of the game. I really do. I think because they were outplaying me.
Right.
And I think without that threat of the character dying, I think you lose a lot. I remember there was one D&D game I ran in high school where a character got whacked the first game. And it was a good death. It was like a good, solid death. But it was the first game.
Wow.
But it was cool because the player came back with another character the next week, and that made sense. And the rest of the people there was fear. Like when combat happened, there was really legitimate fear. And that was cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how he died. Let me talk about how he died. So they were in this gladiatorial arena.
Right.
And there were boats filled. The gladiatorial arena had been filled with water, and there were boats floating on it. And they had to fight from boat to boat. And they found out that somebody had a getaway plan, and there was like a spell jamming helm in one of the boats. The spell jamming helms allow the boats to fly. So like the players got together with the gladiatorial team that had a spell jam, that knew the spell jamming helm was there, and they faked the fight, and then got onto the ship, and
of them left.
Yeah, and got onto the helm, and they went up to go away. And as they were getting away, one of the guards of the gladiatorial arena threw a spear with a chain on it, and it caught. Like the player was like down to like 3 hit points. I'd worn him down, and it caught him in the chest, and he went down to 0. And then the chain yanked
him off the boat.
Yanked him off the boat.
Oh wow, that's a good death.
And I thought it was a good death. I thought it was a heck of a death and that's how we ended the first game. So Jeff, do you want to talk about some deaths that have happened at your table that stand out to you?
Haven't I talked about these before?
Yeah, dude, I can't stop making fun of you about it. And anything in particular that stands out? Do you have worries? Do you have? You really brought up this topic.
Actually, one of the things that I find I have to be more concerned about now. Is the actual death scene. Mm-hmm. I think it's fine to kill characters. I know I'm not alone here, but
right.
Okay. I think it's fine to kill characters, but I think that it's important to make their death up to what it should be. You don't want to make it something cheesy.
Right.
In the past, I have killed characters, and it's been cheesy, and it just maybe then I was okay with it. Now, hindsight, it is totally lame. So I think if at all possible, I don't know, maybe fudging comes in here.
Maybe
this, I don't know, maybe, I might even say that this would be like a time I might fudge. I might fudge if I'm going to end up, if one of my hero characters is being threatened by a kobold and, I don't want him to die, but he's horribly losing, so I might fudge here.
Right.
I might be like, okay, you don't get killed.
Or, I think at that point you're knee deep in it. But I think what you need to think about as a GM is, why was the kobold in the adventure?
Yeah.
Why did that happen? Why was the kobold encounter there? What was it trying to say? Because every encounter should really say something about the characters. It should be there to pinpoint something about that character, whether it's, hey, they kick butt, or, hey, they have this animosity towards kobolds.
Sometimes a character just puts themselves in a spot where you're almost forced. They say, hey, I want to go out looking for a kobold. Okay, you find a kobold.
Right.
And they happen to get their butt whooped.
Right.
And
then at that point, when they go when they get knocked unconscious, maybe you have them, captured. I think there are other things you can do other than death that are more interesting.
Oh, certainly.
Have them captured. Have the other players have to get them back.
Certainly, I do agree with you. There are times you can do other things, but
D20's rough, man. Because you can roll one die in front of everybody, and you roll the damage, and then they're a negative 10, and that's it.
Yeah.
Good night. And unless you've got resurrection and all that stuff up and running.
There are lots and lots of games where system means death.
Right.
Lots of them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's important to try and lead that to something that is cool for the player.
Or you just make every encounter count, Yeah. And you have something set up so that when they die, they know that their next character will be cool. Riddle of Steel does that really well.
Right.
Where when you die, you get all of the cool stuff that your old character had and then some. And that's a neat way to do it. I think you get all of the advances that your old character had. And that's nice. You keep track of all of that XP that you spent, and it's called renown.
Right.
And it just folds right up on over. And that could be good. Maybe that's something else to think about. I mean, once you're there and you're rolling that die that can kill your character in a way that you're not uncomfortable with, you're already like you're way too deep in to really be thinking about it. So let's think about it way before. So let's think about let's just like push the rewind button. Why was the kobold there? Rewind. Okay, at the beginning of the game, we set up what happens when players die, so that everybody knows, so it's less fearful.
Right.
Because it's really fear of the unknown. Does this mean I have to go home?
Right.
Who knows what some players think when their characters die, and then you rewind until and look at the system and be like, okay, what's going to kill you?
In this particular like I was running my D20 game lately, and a character ended up dying.
Right.
He was doing some crazy stuff with magic, and with the system that we had, for this, he ended up dying.
Wow.
And he ended up being resurrected, but I let the resurrection happen. I was like, all right, well, that death scene was pretty lame because it was from his magic, and it wasn't anything particularly like
interesting.
Great. Yeah,
right.
It wasn't. It just so I said, this game we're gonna have a scene. And it can be just something that shows up or whatever. You come up with one, or you want to do it in one of the scenes that we have where your character
is going to
die.
See, now that's fantastic. Now we're talking about stuff that we talked about earlier with drift. You drifted the system so that once you hit negative 10 hit points, it doesn't mean you die right there. It means you die that game.
Well, it did.
I think that's really cool.
It actually,
or if you fail versus death, or whatever it is.
He did die, but I let him be resurrected so that we could do his actual his death.
Right, but you said his actual final death.
Yeah.
Is something that you're going to narrate later.
Exactly.
And that's nice.
Exactly, and it ended up being something much cooler for him.
Right.
And it would have been so lame because we've been playing this game for a year, and
people put a lot of energy into characters, especially when they've been playing for a year. There's a lot of emotional energy that they put into that character.
Absolutely.
So I mean, and you could make that very structured in your game to say, okay, people, if you die and you're not happy with the way you die, you're still dead. But at some point in that game, we'll prolong it, and the death scene will happen at some point.
Right.
So that,
like, you're seriously wounded instead of just death, and then later on
I mean. The Dogs in the Vineyard system does that, I think, pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So very good. Killing characters. Hopefully we've deconstructed that a little bit, I think, and gotten people to think about the different stages of rewind that we need to think about when we're killing characters. Because I think saying no characters die is really soft pedaling and weak.
Yeah. I think you definitely should be able to kill characters, but I think it needs to count. I mean, I think it needs to mean something.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be cheesy.
Vincent Baker wrote a really cool thing about characters' death meaning something, and we'll provide a link to that in the links page.
Awesome. Well, Judd, this was a good show, man.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. I like the way we broke up. We broke it up into nice, easy pieces for us to digest. It was nice.
We're gonna get your Geek-on-a-thon coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's on the 25th. It's coming.
So we're gonna probably have something to talk about in our show.
Yeah.
After that,
Michael Miller will be here in Ithaca joining us with his wife Kat. So that's really cool. Who he made With Great Power.
And he's going to be running that there, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Yeah, a bunch of my players from my D20 game are going to be joining him in that one. Yeah,
fantastic.
I told them, I was like, look, if you ever have a chance to play in a game with somebody who created it, do it. And here's your chance. So go.
Nice. And our buddy Jim from A Burning Wheel game is running Iron Heroes. And a guy named JC is running Serenity,
which I will be playing in.
Fantastic. Who are you playing?
Jane.
Jane?
Yeah.
I'd be dang tempted to play Mal, but I want to keep myself in reserve and see what's needed. And our buddy Brett is playing Capes, and it's good. It's a nice spread of games.
Nice. Well, if you want to contact us and tell us how much you like or hate our show, or if you have any suggestions for topics you want us to talk about, because we have gotten those, and we will eventually get to some of the suggested topics that people have emailed us.
Yeah, we're working them in. We're definitely working them in.
You can contact us at
sonsofkryos@yahoo.com. That is sonsofkryos@yahoo.com. Or you can just go onto the forums. There's a link to the forums on our page, and you can post on a thread and let us know what you're thinking. We love that. We absolutely love that.
We'd love to hear from you. You can tell us what you think about the actual show. Tell us whatever.
Yeah.
Dump it on us.
Let's have a shout out to our the boys and girls from Portugal who are listening to us, who have been so active on our forum.
We have gotten emails from people all over the world, man.
Very nice.
It is cool.
We're geek rock stars.
It is damn cool.
Thanks everybody for listening.